Well, these early top 25 preseason picks are out, and what should we make of them? There's really not a consensus number one team. So let's just go through a few of them as we talk here. And where does Georgia fit in this mess that is the lead up to the 2021 season? Although hopefully not as big a mess as 2020. Dean Legge from Dog Post making you a smarter Georgia fan. And to me, the sort of, if you want to call it gold standard of early preseason picks. Mark Schlabach over at ESPN. I mean, Mark's been doing this for a long time. He's got Clemson at 1, Alabama at 2, OU at 3, Georgia at 4, Ohio State at 5. Okay? Athlon, which is a preseason publication in print form, has already got theirs out for 2021. Alabama's their 1, Clemson at 2, Oklahoma 3, and the Dogs at 4. Then they've got Ohio State at 5. Sporting News, they go with Alabama at the 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3, Oklahoma 4, the Dogs at 5. Some of these were before it was announced that that Zamir was coming back. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. CBS, Clemson at 1, OU at 2, Georgia at 3, Alabama at 4, Ohio State at 5. I think what we're talking about here, first of all, I'm not surprised Oklahoma's up there. They definitely have earned it. They are a program that is playing well right now. And that win over Florida, whether it was the scout team, as Dan Mullen called it, or not, that was an impressive win. OU looked really good, just the way that Alabama looked really good when they beat Ohio State. The big thing about everyone but Oklahoma and Georgia in this thing is that they are rebuilding in many ways. Now, people will say Clemson and Alabama are reloading. Okay, fine, you want to call it that, but they don't have their starting quarterbacks back. That makes a difference. I can tell you that right now. That makes a difference. So, if Trevor Lawrence was as good as everyone said, it's going to matter that he's not the starter at Clemson next year. I mean, it's going to matter. Now, how much will it matter? I don't know. Then you lose Travis Etienne. That hurts. Ohio State, you're losing Justin. You're losing Trey Sermon. So they're losing guys too. Mac Jones is gone. Obviously, Devontae Smith is gone. Najee Harris is gone. I'm assuming Jalen Waddle is gone. You've got a lot of guys gone. Clemson, with Clemson, you've got a quarterback coming in who, can make plays for sure. The question is, the offensive line for him was not great at times for Trevor Lawrence. So that's going to have to get better for Clemson. And just the lines of scrimmage in general for Clemson are going to have to get better in the offseason for what we saw against Ohio State. Ohio State, I mean, you've got, I'm assuming the kid from California is coming in to that signed to play. But, with both the kids coming in for Clemson and Ohio State are California kids. You got a kid at Georgia, California kid. So, you got a lot of West Coast vibe here on these top 5 teams. The quarterbacks matter a ton. Now, who should be ranked 1? I think this, to me, is the first year in a while where you can say, I'm not really sure any of these teams should be number 1. But you got to put someone at 1. If you want to put Clemson as the 1, I get that. They're not as strong as they were last year. They came in last year as the 1, and they're going to finish. They finished in 20 as the 2, or the 3. Excuse me. So but to me, Oklahoma, I would not put them as the 1. I just wouldn't. They're a good team. I guess it just doesn't feel right, if you want to call it that, to put them as the 1, but you got to put somebody in there. Alabama, to me, is the team that they never seem to be bad for long. And that there's not really an easy number 1 coming into this year means you got to pick somebody. I guess I would take Alabama, but I'm not fighting anybody about any of these. I would not put Georgia as the 1. Because you've got issues on the offensive line you got to figure out, and those are figure-outable situations. And then you've got the secondary, okay? So that's an issue too. So both of those situations. But really, Georgia's got more answers than questions. Can we say that about Clemson? Can we say that about Alabama? We're going to have some transition at Ohio State. But if you look at everyone's situation and schedule, all of these teams could conceivably, the five of them, could combine to get to their conference championship games with one loss. That is totally in the realm of possibility, and that's because Clemson and Georgia play one another to start the year. You're gonna, I mean, everybody though, let me just go through these top five real quick. I mean, in no order necessarily. I talked about Georgia, so I'll start with them first. JT Daniels is going to have to continue to play well. Georgia's offensive line's got to get figured out. And then the secondary, I think, is a concern. I don't know how much of a concern. Ohio State, you're going to have to deal with probably C.J. Stroud, maybe Jack Miller, who are going to come in and start. But you're losing, Trey Sermon. That hurts. Same thing with, clearly losing Justin Fields hurts. And then those playmaking linebackers at Ohio State, I think the bulk of them are gone. At Alabama, you're looking at, these guys are gone. Mac Jones, Devonta Smith, Najee Harris, Patrick Surtain, no Dylan Moses. Bryce Young, who's a very good and capable quarterback. People thought that he would start over Mac Jones. I didn't know what would happen there. He will come in. My suspicion is they're not going to miss a lot of beat, but you will see change at Alabama. They will not be what we saw in the championship game at all. Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler clearly is a good playmaking quarterback. Running back, I'm not sure where they'll go there. I'm assuming Oklahoma always has answers on the offensive side of the ball. And they have been better at defense lately under Lincoln Riley. But so goes Rattler, so go the Sooners. They benched him or whatever happened in that Texas game. They will have a more stout Big 12 to deal with this year than they have had in the past. I don't know. They're hot, though. And I don't know who they open with in 2021, but I don't think there's really a bunch of teams in Oklahoma's ways. In Oklahoma's way. So it's if Rattler can play like he did sort of later in the year, that's right. They play at Tulane. Their big crossover game, their big out of conference game is Nebraska at home. They will kill Nebraska. That would be a shocking situation if Nebraska beat Oklahoma. So there's just not a lot in their way outside of Iowa State. But Iowa State, Texas, it's getting a little bit better in the Big 12 for sure. And then, Clemson, you've got your quarterback. I don't know who the running back is not a household name necessarily. The question are all the line of scrimmage. At Clemson, those defensive linemen are really good. They just did not play really well against Ohio State. Or Ohio State's offensive line is that good. And if they were that good, they should have pushed Alabama around, and they really didn't. So I don't know what's going on there. And then with Clemson, the secondary looked bad. They just straight up looked bad against Ohio State. Justin was lighting them up. So that's another area of concern, if you want to call it that. So all of these teams have it, and you got to get a running back at Clemson. I think they feel like they've got a guy, but he's not going to be Travis Etienne. He's just not, and that's what happens. You got to replace guys. But all of these teams have issues. If you watch this, you've seen enough of us talking about Georgia and their issues. Georgia has issues. Period. They just do. That's why you're not going to stick them at number one. But you got to stick somebody at number one. And I don't know that it makes sense to just put Alabama there because they just won it. One season has nothing to do with the next. So, and Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, all three of them lost a fair amount. If I'm looking for a value pick, this is not going to happen. But North Carolina is a team to watch. I think Cincinnati is a team to watch. Neither of those teams are going to win the national championship. They're just teams to watch. Clemson doesn't play North Carolina in the season. That will be a tough out for Clemson. That's been their most difficult. That's been their most difficult ACC championship game was when they played North Carolina, if memory serves correct, before the 15 season. North Carolina's got to go to Notre Dame, so that's a game to watch. But other than that, there's they got Miami. I mean, these are not games. So North Carolina, Cincinnati are two teams to watch. Is Texas going to jump up and do something? I don't know. But those top five, I get it. There's a reason why they're up there, and they're the teams to watch for sure. Dean Legge, Dog Post, make you a smarter Georgia fan. Make sure you're clicking on this playlist up here. We update it all the time with new content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you over on the website.